Hello, hello. Welcome back to Afternoon Drive here on Joppa Radio. My name is Drew Moholland. Good to be back. Happy 2020, everybody. Very exciting. Kind of a cool number, too. Not too bad. My New Year's was great. Hopefully yours was as well. Safe and fun and all that good stuff. Mine's kind of lame these days, although I had a nice dinner with my wife. That was more exciting than it usually is, to be honest with you. That's kind of just the big plans. I'm not a big New Year's guy anymore. You know, too much cover charges and too many cover charges, and I don't know, just always crazy. Everywhere's crowded, and that's kind of the night I stay in these days. That just shows you I'm boring now, though. Great to be back. We had a few shows off. I think we ended up missing 3 or 4 during our little holiday break, so I hadn't seen you since Christmas. Hope the Christmas went well, and hope everything is good. 2020 off and running. We're back here for another go around, and we started off with the mayor of Newburyport today, Donna Holaday. Who's already in the house. So why don't I start 2020 off in polite fashion? I'll quickly jump out of the way, get the mayor in here set up. We'll get through a laundry list of stuff with her, and then we'll get 2020 off and running. We'll close the show and say hello to the producers. I don't even know who's here today. I haven't even got a whole feel for it yet. I do know Lily DeSette's in the house producing this. Hello, Lily. Hand from Lily. There it is. There's Lily. She's in the house, so, and then Carolyn's here and a bunch of others. So we'll do that on the back end. But the mayor of Newburyport, Donna Holaday, up next. Keep it here. We'll be right back. Much more Afternoon Drive in just a moment. All right, welcome back to Afternoon Drive here on Joppa Radio. My name is Drew Moholland. It is the first show of the new year, and as I bring in Newburyport's mayor, Donna Holaday. Happy New Year, Mayor. Good to have you on.
Oh, thanks, Drew. It's always nice to be on, and Happy New Year to you also.
Big honor. First guest of the year.
Well, thanks.
Yes. Well, I hope all is well, and I hope the Christmas season and the New Year and all that went well for you. Kind of, it's quite the chapter. You kind of get through all that, and now it's kind of like a little bit more routine now, right? You can start routines again.
Yeah.
It's always tough when that first alarm hits after the...
Oh, yes.
One thing I was going to mention to you. So, well, let's start with, do you have any big goals for 2020 here that you really want the city to try to tackle? Anything that's pressing that you want front and center?
Oh, of course. There's a long list of those, but I'll start with the top priorities. Early February, we'll be doing the State of the City address at the Senior Community Center, and again, version of it for the chamber, so there'll be more opportunity to have those conversations, but about the state of the city and our goals going forward. But we're anxiously awaiting the appraisal of the National Guard building on Low Street that we're looking at as a potential for relocating youth services. It's a project we've been working on for 2.5 years to get to this point where we received the appraisal. So it was done on the 26th, and we're just waiting for it to land in our hands. So that's an important piece of information as we try to move forward on the Brown School and housing and youth services and where they need to land. The other is we're pretty close to the final cleanup of the PCBs behind the wastewater treatment plant for opening up that section of the rail trail. It certainly won't be paved and finished like other sections, but at least it will be open for use. So we're pretty close. Another couple of weeks. We're waiting for final testing to be sure we got all the PCBs up, and then they'll be able to put the gravel back down, and it will remove the fences, and people can begin to walk that section, which will be nice. So that's an important piece. We also would like to have the home rule petition that's before the legislature approved for the dissolution of the NRA, so that we can begin to move forward on that piece. We've already loamed and seeded the area that we know will be expanded park and have reduced some of the parking there, but really would like to get that taken care of and begin moving forward on the permanent park. And also want to get back into Boston to meet with New England Development to hopefully see a redesign of what they want to do on Waterfront West, because there was a lot of pushback from the community on their original proposals and modifications, that it just was too dense and too big for that area. So that's another important piece. The traffic circle is also important, Route 1 traffic circle, where we really want to work on redesign of that. We have some design money we're working on for that, and it's important to be able to connect the entire rail trail by finishing that piece.
That's a beautiful thing for towns who have been able to do it. It's a really great thing.
I think we have one of the best rail trails ever, and give a lot of credit to Jordy Vining for his leadership there. And all the artists who have contributed sculptures or paintings, murals. It's just really makes it very, very
it brings
special.
communities together. I mean, you walk the dogs, you got bikers that go through. It's really a cool thing.
You stop and talk to people. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. It's really terrific. So that's a important piece. Affordable housing is something that we really need more of in our city.
And a lot of cities.
Yes, everywhere. I mean, this is something the governor's been working on for a long time, trying to get his housing choice bill through. And, this is something that's really important. As you see, the average single-family home in Newburyport is now up over $600,000.
It is, I mean, Boston's having similar issues.
Right.
I had my old roommate is still in Brighton, and he kept the house after. He's there by himself now, but it was 3 of us back in the day, and he was telling me what he could rent the rooms out, the same room I used to have back 10 years ago, and it was staggering to me. Without getting into numbers, it's double and more. You know?
People wouldn't even believe if I told them what I paid for rent when I had a studio with a loft between Fairfield and Gloucester on Beacon Street when I was in grad school in Boston. I mean,
my younger cousins can't believe it.
It's probably 300% more than what I was paying back then. But it's a real concern, and it's a concern especially for our seniors, people on fixed incomes who. The taxes are what they are, and we're still sort of in the median range of all of Essex County, and it's expensive to run a city, and that's what we have to pay. But
it's such people, I think, sometimes don't. I think that when they think affordable housing, they're thinking like a lot of times always the college kid coming out, and how they're going to get a place to live. But so many times I think they don't think about the elderly and how it really on the back end.
Firemen, teachers. I mean, these aren't people who are making 6-figure salaries, and really would be nice to be able to live and work in a community and raise your family. So we have more work to do, and we have an affordable housing trust that meets monthly and have really been looking at this issue. And we had a housing production plan that was redone with support of the Merrimack Valley Planning Commission. So we have more work to do in this area. And I was very, very disappointed with our city council who voted down 41C1/2, which was a state program that would have allowed us to have helped about 260, 280 seniors with a reduction in their property taxes. And that, coupled with our property tax work-off program, could really make a difference for seniors. So I'm going to try to work with our legislators to see if we can get them
Where did that lose ground, you think?
Because there's an asset limit.
Yeah.
But as I said, people who are coming in now who are downsizing from other parts of the state or country and coming to Newburyport and buying homes in this market aren't the people we're talking about. The people who need some support. We're talking about, generations of families who have lived in Newburyport, potentially 3rd, 4th generation, owning the same home, and they want to stay there. And so we're trying to figure out other programs, shared living situations, how we can turn in-law apartments into actual rentals that are affordable for people. So we've got a lot of work to do in this area.
When you were talking about the rail trail, for some reason it just triggered me I was thinking about the Merrimack, and last time you were on here, we talked a little bit about the sewage and how the bacteria, and there's a bill on Beacon Hill right now, right? Or at least in committee. Are you involved in that? Or?
Oh, very much so.
Yeah, I figured as much.
Yeah, I was quoted on the, support for the bill in the State House News. And, really notification is such a small thing.
Yeah.
That's the least we could get the state to do for the, river communities, because as the sewage and more precipitation, more and more of the combined sewer stormwater overflows are going to happen. And we have to be able to notify boaters, swimmers, people, kayaking.
When there's bad water.
I mean, it's critical that we do this. And we have a dog park right along the river, and dogs oftentimes jump into the river, and people have told me that they have seen sores and different things on, anecdotally. And so we're trying to bring this Merrimack River Commission together to work with higher ed to do better data collection, There's another bill that was passed that Newburyport becomes a pilot, and there's this new piece of equipment from France called Fluidion, I think is how you say it, and it's actually in the river, and instead of having to collect samples, send it to a lab to determine whether or not there's high levels of E. coli, this actually does real-time data for you. And so I believe Lowell has one, and I'd like Newburyport to have one, and wondering if this grant program will help us.
So literally alarms go off when something happens?
So it would tell us that, so that in turn would trigger the notification system. And I know there's some Rotarians who want to do an app, but we have to know what we're putting an app for at this point. We have to have a notification system that you can, attach to if when we get there. But that's something that's still very important.
Okay. The on a very positive note here for Newburyport, obviously, like every city, you have a long list of things you want to address. I keep hearing, and I almost every time you come on, I hear more and more of this. Especially, I'm 32, about to be 33. My age group loves coming here. Great walking city, great city to go to eat. A lot going on here. Live music scene is good. It's really become a destination spot.
It has. I don't think there's any question about that. It was funny because for a long time it seemed that everybody went to Portsmouth or Portland and drove right by Newburyport.
It is funny.
And then,
or not funny, however.
Then all of a sudden, we built a new elementary school. We built this beautiful senior center and space for the Newburyport hub and the rail trail. And all of a sudden it was just Newburyport was in demand.
Yeah.
And meeting more and more people who are newly relocated to our city. And somebody else just came in today from Connecticut. They just moved in. Yeah. So I overheard them.
As a mayor, do you like, I think, is it always good for a mayor if you're seeing new businesses pop up around?
Oh, of course.
There's no downside to that, right? Or maybe there is a limit at some point. But,
well, no, but I think that we can't direct any kind of business model, and you would hope that people would, do their due diligence in terms of creating that. And I think sometimes some of the small new retail shops that have come in haven't necessarily done enough of the research, and so it becomes difficult to survive in the retail environment. But I think for the most part, most of the stores I heard, anecdotally, I don't, said they did okay this season. I know the restaurants did, especially some of them did really well. So that's encouraging. I think things like invitation nights and, bringing in tall ships and more, activities that draw people to come to the city for the day and spend money and, pay for parking, help pay for the garage, help,
absolutely.
help pay, keep the retailers in business and frequent our restaurants is a wonderful thing.
That is absolutely good. I have to ask you and you hear this, Governor Baker has this squarely on his plate, and of course, it's an issue that is not easily fixed when you have the oldest rail and commuter lines in the country, and the T is as old as can be, and it's not an easy fix. I know that a lot of these commuter rail issues end up happening in Newburyport. I see it all the time. Newburyport line delayed an hour, people late getting to work. I mean, not just here, of course. It's all across the state, but I imagine that you have people at least coming to you. Can you get in somebody's ear? I mean, I got to get to work, and this is impossible to get from Newburyport to Boston with all the train issues. What do you hear on the commuter rail front?
Well, I don't hear as much about the actual mechanical and delay issues of the commuter rail, because that goes to transportation, Department of Transportation, the MBTA kind of thing, or but I hear more about concerns about the fact that the parking lot is dirty, it's not well lit.
Platforms.
There's, that you pay, but where do you pay? And, they expect everyone to have smartphones, and, then people are getting on the train and they're not, fares aren't being collected. And so there's, I hear more of those issues, or the fact that C&J doesn't charge for parking, which I think either both lots should be free or both should be paid. They can't, because what happens is I hear people carpool, they leave one car or a couple cars over in C&J, and then they carpool over to the commuter lot to leave their car, and
that's the common play.
And then there's not enough parking at C&J, and so I believe they're opening up another stop in the Seabrook area to sort of capture the main New Hampshire folks, because at this point they drive to Newburyport to park. So, there's a lot of work that has to happen in this area, because it's certainly, then you add construction on the Chelsea Bridge, and I mean, it can take
It's crazy.
2+ hours to get into the city for a meeting.
It's a real something you have to look at when you're thinking about living to communities like this.
Right.
If you're going to work in Boston and do a normal 9 to 5 job, and I know there's not necessarily, that's not always the case these days, but if you do work that rush hour time, it can be a 2.5 hour commute some days.
Yeah. I mean, so who wants to spend another 5 hours in a car?
Yeah.
You know?
It's crazy. Anyways, I just wanted your thought on that a little bit. Your thoughts on the presidential race here. We had another candidate drop out today. Julian Castro said he was parting ways. I know Deval Patrick has thrown his name in the race. You crossed paths with him a bit. How was the working relationship with Deval Patrick?
It was good. You know, there's no question about it. I mean, he stepped up and was very committed to the state, and he and Lieutenant Governor Murray, I think it was the first time that I had seen where Lieutenant Governor was really assigned to be the direct liaison with municipalities, and that was wonderful. Some grant programs. He certainly came up to Newburyport several times, walked with me during one of my re-elections, and I think he came in too late, is my opinion.
Yeah, were you surprised?
I was very surprised. Very surprised that he, sort of stepped in so late when, but I was at the meeting house on January 31st for Elizabeth Warren's speech that she gave at sort of the anniversary of her announcement of her run a year ago, and that was quite inspirational. And Senator Markey was there, and Joe Kennedy, and Anya Presley, and Dan Rivera, the mayor of Lawrence. So there was a group of us elected officials there to help, sort of cheer her on during her speech. So it was very moving, and it's tough. There's just way too many candidates, and so it'll be nice when this pool gets down to sort of a reasonable number.
Do you try to stay out of it as far as publicly until it does become a smaller pool, or
it's important to do that. I mean, I certainly am supporting Senator Markey, and but that was before I knew Joe Kennedy was in the race. So sometimes you get into these sort of difficult situations where you like both candidates, but one has reached out to you first. So I'm going to sort of wait until the field is a little more reasonable before I actually publicly come out and endorse someone. But I am a big fan of Senator Warren in terms of her work. I think she ran into some difficulty with her health care plan, but I know that they're sort of tweaking that somewhat. But she's just a smart, dedicated woman. So I don't know. It's gonna be an interesting year, or 10 months, I should say.
Yeah, it should. When a Kennedy throws his name in the race too, it of course is always interesting. I do wonder, just from afar, and maybe it's even unfair to bring it up because I know you know both of them, but I do wonder if he underestimated how much support Ed Markey actually has in the state. I mean, he's a long-term senator, but it felt like, I don't know, it seems to me he might have been caught a little bit off guard about all the union power that he had, and I'm not sure how true that is or how it will end up playing out, but just from afar, it looks like.
We'll just wait and see. And it's hard to split, the Democrats, the Democratic candidates, as opposed to, uniting and supporting, one for Senate. But anyway, it'll be an interesting 10 months, that's for sure.
Never a dull moment.
Nope.
One thing that was interesting to me, I don't know, I know you know him, William Shuttleworth, who walked across what a story that is, right?
Amazing.
One of my feel-good stories of 2019, although he would be upset if I said that, because he would say this is issues we're dealing with and we're raising money, which he's right. He is trying to tackle a lot of issues by raising money for veterans and all these great veterans causes, especially healthcare. But one thing he said to me was he was in, I believe it was Colorado, and there was a local mayor there. He didn't tell me what city, but he said that, I said to the mayor, and she said she was very smart, doing a lot for the community, very involved. And I said, what do your veterans think about how you're doing things? And she goes, I got to tell you, William, I don't think I could name you one veteran in this community. And he goes, really? How can you deal with veterans issues if you don't know the veterans? He goes, come take a walk with me. And he goes, within 20 minutes, we had met 5 veterans and talked with them and had coffee with a few of them. And he said, I don't think she'll ever run into that mistake again. But It was interesting to me. Just I wonder from a mayor's perspective. I'm sure you have veterans all the time that are speaking at. They tend to speak at a lot of these meetings. I wonder what the veterans feel in this community. Are they being felt like they're taken care of?
I hope so. I mean, I really believe that it's critical for these men and women who have sacrificed for some years of their lives to, go off and fight, particularly in these, Korean, Vietnam, World War II.
Yeah.
Even though we're down to I think our last group of World War II veterans, but I think that our Kevin Hunt, our Veteran Service Officer, who organizes a really, I think, nice event on Veterans Day and Memorial Day where we honor and recognize our veterans, the Field of Honor that the Exchange Club has, the lunch that Michael's Harborside does on Veterans Day. The fact that we do a special event during Yankee Homecoming luncheon for veterans. So I think that we try very hard to, honor and support. We just have different memorials across the city, flagpoles, and that we're upgrading and redoing. We just did all the World War I plaques in front of City Hall, and we have the hall in the main hall in City Hall is all dedicated to veterans. So I think we work hard, and Kevin's, not concerned at all about coming to me and telling me if there's a problem with an individual family that we need to support. And we did have a situation a few years back where people came together, veterans, to help other veterans. To it was a very difficult family situation, and they were able to they needed work on their house, and they were able to come together to help them. So I'm really proud of that work.
That is cool. What's what was that day like? I remember you were there with William when he came back and was remembered here in Newburyport.
I wasn't, unfortunately. No, I was in. My husband and I waited I've been mayor 10 years going into my 11th year, and so we've waited a long time for a vacation. We were actually in Italy.
Well, that's partially his fault. He finished sooner than he was supposed to.
I know. I mean, goodness. But I did watch the video from there, and I did talk to him about that and told him I was sorry that I wasn't here for his return. But I've heard him speak. I've looked at his website, seen his video, some of the videos that have been posted, and I'm just so proud of the work that he's done. It's just incredible what he accomplished.
It really is. He even got back in time to see a grandchild born, which he was supposed to miss. So that tells you. Let's talk about that a little bit too. Decade plus running for in this seat here. That's not something that you can't say that about every community around here. This is quite a run you're putting together. Some days I'm sure you're sick of it, but you must be pretty proud overall, huh?
Well, I have to say that, I didn't run for mayor thinking about the longevity, but just thinking about the work that was right in front of us. And, with previously having a 2-year term, we had a revolving door of mayors, revolving door of superintendents, and I inherited stacks and stacks of studies. But there, everywhere I looked, everything was crumbling. And so it was really important to assemble a really strong management team, department heads, and to roll up our sleeves, figure out how to fund all this and move forward. And, we've done a lot in the last 10 years, and I'm really proud of the team and the work that we've done.
And, the new year, the flip of the calendar here brings some mayoral changes around the state, including locally. Just your thoughts in generalities on that one. Exciting or?
I think any change can be exciting, but just because you don't know. I mean, I've always worked closely. It's always been a relationship between the mayor of Amesbury and the mayor of Newburyport. I know it was a hard loss for Ken Gray, and we met and have talked and told him, you just have to hold your head high and look back on what you accomplished in the 6 years that you served as mayor in Amesbury, because you did a lot, for the community, and now it's time, to pass the baton, and I will be doing that in 2 years, and that's the way it works. But it was surprising because there are probably, I think, 13 mayors that are turning over this year out of 46. So that's a lot. Normally it's not that many, but there are several who are taking different jobs, and others who have just decided that it's time to stop.
Yep. One of those mayors is the. It's not funny. I don't know why I laugh. But it is. It's an interesting scene where he decided to stay on the Fall River situation with Jazel Correa. That is wild. Is it? I can't seem to get my head around that one where he refuses to leave. And
I don't know what to say about that one.
I finally got you speechless. That's
good.
You
did.
That one tends to do it to people.
Yeah, no, that's a tough situation, and it's really unfortunate. And second indictment too. It's just
he's so young. Can you? Not to make excuses for him, of course. Those are very serious charges. But is there something to experience in the position of mayor? It seems to me it would be tough. Again, I'm 32, 33. I feel like I would have a tough time in your seat as a 32-year-old. Just not having all those years of experience underneath me.
I don't know. I mean, you look at the mayor of Holyoke. I mean, he was the youngest mayor that had been elected, and he made a couple little slip-ups initially, but I think he's done a fairly good job. He's been reelected several times to Holyoke, and
learning on the fly, though, right?
Yeah, well, mayors do.
Yeah.
No
matter how old you are.
Or, even if you've sat on the council, there's still so many things that you don't get the kind of training that town managers do. I mean, you really go into a boot camp where when you become mayor, you have a couple days where sort of seasoned mayors. They asked me to come in this year to talk to the new mayors, and you just sort of give them advice. But,
really? That's an interesting task to have, huh?
Well, you share some, I think one of the things that is hard for a 2-year mayor is that you got to start raising money for a re-election like almost as soon as you take office. Yeah. And that's hard. So I was very grateful of having the charter changed to a 4-year after I did 2 2-year terms, and then now I'm in my second 4-year term. And a 4-year term makes so much more sense in terms of being able to focus on the job and not have to focus on running for re-election. But, one piece of advice is to make sure that one of your signature pieces that you move on it within 6 months so that people begin to see that you can, put action where your vision is. And,
deliver,
and that's important.
Is that something you always had in your head was, if I'm going to say something, try to pay it off within 6 months?
Right. Well, even not if it's 6 months, sometimes it's longer. Like, look at this, just trying to get an appraisal and work with the National Guard's been 2.5 years. So sometimes the state process or other processes can, sort of make it a little more challenging. But, I'm used to having to bide my time. I mean, it was 3 decades of fighting over the garage. Yeah. I think I told you this story once about finding a letter from 1968
you did,
about the senior center, and we cut the ribbon in November of 15. Yeah. So, Newburyport has a history of taking a while to move things forward, but that's why it's important to have a good working relationship with the council as best you can. I mean, they're the legislative branch. They have their own set of rules and agenda that they have to follow in their own objectives, and but it's important that we work together to be sure we can move these things forward.
Right. Again, we're joined here by Newburyport Mayor Donna Holaday, first guest of 2020. Very excited about this. Here's an interesting one for you. So I'm watching a Hillary Clinton interview the other day on Howard Stern. Right? That's a great interview, by the way. She was comfortable, and it was great. And they were talking about the raid that ended up killing Osama bin Laden, and it diverted off into how President Obama at the time, when making that decision, polled the people in the room, asked everybody what they thought. He went back and slept on it for the night, came back with his decision, and told everybody this is what he's doing, this is why he's doing it. She was very complimentary and said that's just how I always thought a commander-in-chief should be. Asked for everybody's opinion, respect it, took it in, took some time, and then came back with the answer. Complete segue. You can see where I'm going with this a little bit. President Obama relying on team members. Every time I come in here, you always make sure to mention some of your team members. You've already done it a little bit. It seems like you really rely on a lot of your staffers very closely. And how important is it to have a close-knit team?
It's critical.
Yeah.
You can't, there's too much to do in the city, and there isn't enough money to bring in all the staff that every office would like. Yep. So we work with 35 boards and commissions, 2 wonderful people in our community who step up to volunteer to be on things like the Historic Commission, the Planning Board, the ZBA, and I'm forever grateful for people who, are dedicated to being part of these boards and commissions to help things work. But you really, absolutely have to have a team of people who are willing to. And I say that frequently. People have heard me say that 2:00 in the morning something goes down. I know that I could call every single department head I needed, and they would be there. No
That's
matter,
a great feeling.
it's a great, they always, they work really hard because we work well together, and it wasn't always that way.
Yeah.
I mean, I felt like City Hall was really silos when I took office. People weren't working together. People were running out the door at like 1 minute of 4. They couldn't wait to get out of work.
Yeah.
It's not like that anymore. A whole different culture, and I'm pleased that we have been able to make that difference.
That is great. The how has the winter season been? I know this is for a variety of reasons. I always just look at the landscape, and it is not an easy city to have a tough winter. And I know it hasn't been incredibly tough. We've already had a good batch of snow. How has it been as far as snow removal goes? And I know that's always a tough process on any city.
We I think last year we started in a really bad place. We had a whole series of things that happened, plus the lack of 2 major wing plows, trucks going down, our major dispatcher being on vacation when an unexpected storm. I mean, it was just like everything that could go wrong went wrong.
Yeah.
So we regrouped this year and actually did a formal presentation, which I believe is up on the hub now. And I encourage people to watch it. Talks about the snow removal process, and people didn't realize everything that went into this whole operations. And we have a new deputy director, Jamie Tuckalo, who he's doing, a great job managing the highway department, and he's put GPS in each of the plows. We have 2 new wing plows, which we were missing last year. We have backup now, deep for dispatch. Each of the city is divided into plow zones, so that you'll have the same driver who will know the route, the street, all of that over time. And we're also doing a better job of pre-treatment. So that's what's made a difference in terms of getting down to the tar before you get these massive ice storms, which is what we've had mostly.
Right. It has to be one of your biggest calls, right? When did you, when are you going to get to my street, or that sort of thing?
But that's what's so good about having the GPS. They're installed in city vehicles, and for the contractors, they are mobile units. But now, if that happens, we have to. They were on your street at 1:17, 3:15, and 5:30.
So they're getting to it.
so we can tell now exactly where the plows are, where they've been, and at what time.
Yeah.
And so we can let people know, so that we can begin to identify those situations where people are throwing snow into the street and making it look like we haven't plowed, and you're not supposed to do that, and you're supposed to do your sidewalks.
Yes.
But the Angel program, the other thing that I encourage people to sign up through Youth Services or through the Senior Center, if you need help shoveling your sidewalk or your driveway. Somebody in your neighborhood hopefully will have stepped up and put their name on the list as a volunteer. You'll be paired with this person who will be with you through the winter. Whether you're, had surgery and just can't shovel this year, or you're, a senior and, need help shoveling. I mean, that's what the program is for. So
cool.
Call.
That is a great program.
It is.
That's made some news
Snow
throughout
Angels.
the state. Yeah, I've seen that making a lot of regional newspapers and all that, which is fantastic. Again, we're joined here by Newburyport Mayor Donna Holaday. So 2020, final couple minutes here. You kind of laid out your plans. I did want to ask one thing about we both started this conversation by talking about our days living in Boston. Do they do like space savers here in Newburyport? Are there any rules? You can't do any of that, right?
Well, why would you? Because you can't park on the street. There's a snow emergency.
Okay.
And so it's different.
Yeah,
because Boston can't do that. Where are you going to put all those cars?
Right.
Okay. I
just had a flashback to putting out a whatever piece of furniture.
I remember. I was living in the south end of Boston during the famous blizzard, and in grad school at the time, and it was incredible in terms of putting out those chairs or whatever you could find to protect your space that you shoveled out. Yeah, no, we don't have to worry about that because
78 Barry Burbank, his first storm was that storm. Can you believe that? My old friend meteorologist. Imagine coming into a weather center and saying, "Okay, you're off."
Well, it's like our governor and lieutenant governor, where they were in office for 4 weeks, and all of a sudden they hit, 6 weeks of 10 feet of snow hitting the state,
true.
and they had to sort of roll up their sleeves and figure out how to manage all of these emergencies across the state. So
nothing
comes with the job.
Nothing like trial by fire, and I walk into a terrible segue because I do want to end with this. I know it's something you're very passionate about. You went to the West Coast for it, I think a couple weeks before the last time we met. Climate change, of course, is where these fires are burning in Australia right now. That you're just, they're honestly, it's not getting much play here. I mean, it was in the New York Times.
Internet.
Yeah, you can find it, but I mean, it's as far as people wanting this to be a top nightly story every night. It's still. I heard Greta Thunberg say this the other day. Here, it seems like it's treated as kind of a political discussion, whereas in much of my other travels throughout the world, we kind of deal with it more as facts, which was everybody got a laugh out of that. But it is interesting. I wonder, do you feel, is it shifting enough where everybody's saying, okay, there's something happening here, we have to deal with this?
I think that the last holdouts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be some.
Yeah.
But I really start to see people shifting
I do too,
their
actually.
positions, and I'm really pleased about that. And it's just unfortunate that it took so long to do so.
Yeah.
I'm still very worried about rollback and changes and very important, legislation, Clean Water Act,
Yeah.
coal, protecting our national parks. The list goes on and on. Fossil fuels. We could go on forever about this topic. But I really think things are starting to shift. And here in the city, we have a whole series of challenges that are directly related to storm surge and climate change, and particularly out on Plum Island. And the message I keep trying to tell people is that the marsh and Plum Island are protecting the city.
Yeah.
And if we lose the marsh and if we lose Plum Island, we're going to be like Situate.
Yep.
We're going to get hit hard, and it's going to cause, really a lot of damage to our downtown. So I believe that, our efforts in terms of we are almost done with a resiliency plan that we've been working on for several years. And that should hopefully be a tool that will help guide us as we apply for additional grants. We're a municipal vulnerability program community. We have that certification, so we're eligible to apply for some of those grants because we've got to protect our $37 million investment in our wastewater treatment facility, which was designed long before we knew about, the change in FEMA maps and flood levels and all of that. So, we were really working hard to try and get a grant to be able to protect that. But, this is it's frightening. California, same thing. The fires, Australia. I mean, it's just. The climate, it's everywhere. I mean, just look at the changes in the fluctuations in weather we've been having here.
Right.
Too.
And you were encouraged though when you did go to the West Coast last year. There's a lot of good plans. What was the official name of that conference? I don't want to get it wrong.
The Global Climate Action Summit.
Thank you. And
Michael Bloomberg and then Governor Brown were the hosts of it, and. I still try to get on a monthly conference call with the climate mayors from across the world who still are working on issues relating.
Every month?
Once a month,
wow, yeah.
They have a conference call. They've been trying to do a lot more in terms of electric vehicles, and they showcased different mayors in terms of some of the work that they're doing. So it's always helpful when you can go back and look at another community and see what they're doing in terms of their resiliency plans and things like that. But no, it was very worthwhile, and I think one of the major things that I came away with was that the message was you can't wait for this to unbreak, if you will, this log jam in Washington for them to come to consensus on something, because it's taking way too long and we don't have that kind of time anymore. Especially if you listen to the very powerful words of Greta and the latest reports that have come out from the UN about where we are. So I think that the message was very clear that each community, each leader, each person standing at that conference can make a difference.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a good spot to end, trying to save the planet, right? Not a bad way to end a show.
Yes.
Mayor Donna Holaday, thank you so much. We always appreciate you coming in, and thanks for starting off our new year so strongly.
My pleasure. It's always great to be with you, Drew. Thank you.
I know you're busy, so we appreciate it very much. We'll take a break. We'll be back with more Afternoon Drive in just a moment. Keep it here. And a happy new year to our, here's the crew for the new year in the house today. Caleb Noble. How are you, Caleb?
Good, man. How you doing?
Maya Gassman. Haven't seen you in ages.
I know.
You're still here.
I'm still here.
Where have you been? What have you been up to?
Been college. I'm a sophomore at
Oh,
Champlain.
yeah. School thing and all that?
Yeah, school. So I'm back for break, and I go back on the 12th.
Okay. Oh, yeah, that's a long break. I forgot about that college
It's nice,
break.
like a month and a week.
Caleb's like, yeah, it's long.
Yep.
That's, how long is it? A month?
Month and a week. It feels really short, honestly.
Are you bored already?
No.
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 I don't think
love
I
it.
would be either.
I don't get bored.
bored. Yeah, boring only happens to boring people.
Yeah.
Is that saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, we look at it in agreement. Good. Where have you been? You've been gone too. Caleb's been like traveling.
Yeah. Blacksmith school.
Blacksmith school.
Farrier school. Yeah. Learn how to shoe horses.
That's right. How's that going?
It's awesome. Heading back Sunday for another month.
Back is where again?
Georgia.
Georgia. That's right. Georgia. Nice football win for Georgia last night.
Yeah.
Those people will be very excited down
Is
there.
Fromm leaving, you think?
I don't know. I'm not really sure. I'm not too great with the draft stuff.
Yeah.
They didn't although 13 of their guys I was saying, I think they're all leaving because they didn't play in the final
Yeah,
game.
I can't believe that. Well, I can, so I don't get hurt because
if you
that'd be
had
really
millions
bad.
of dollars riding on your
Yeah. On your
legs.
knees.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be taking hits to the knees
No,
either.
me either.
So what's good at Champlain, Maya? What are we into?
Well, I study broadcast media production.
Oh, good
Yeah.
spot for you here.
It is, yeah, because I do radio and video editing and that kind of thing.
Yep.
And yeah, I studied that at school. So
Champlain's beautiful.
yeah, it really is.
You ever go to the
The
lake?
Lake
Yeah.
Champlain's really nice, and then Burlington's also really nice.
Yeah.
This city.
Burlington was always one of my favorite cities.
Yeah.
You do.
Yeah, it's getting better too.
Getting better.
Yeah.
I thought it was pretty good, Maya. You didn't know it when I was there.
No, I didn't. But
I didn't. No, I did not. I had reasons to visit friends. Yeah.
One of my favorite places to play in college was called the Radio Bean, which was like a super hipster bar.
yeah.
Place
Oh.
is dope.
Play like music?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
You played. You actually played out.
Slap at a bass man.
I keep hearing this that you had like a band,
A couple. Yeah.
couple bands. So we have all these musicians in here, and like you never pick up instruments. You're like, let them do it.
There aren't any in here.
Yeah, there are some days, Maya.
Yeah. Tyler brings them in once in a while.
Oh yeah,
Oh.
we've had full bands in here, Maya. We had a full band
In
last.
here?
Yeah, she hasn't been.
thought it
She
was
hasn't been watching the show.
I guess not.
We might even have one. Are you going to be here Thursday?
Yeah.
I'll see if I can come up with a band for Thursday. I don't think I have one booked at the moment. We'll see what we can do. Can you believe that, Lily? Lily? How often do we have bands in here? Constantly.
Oh, that's awesome.
See?
I didn't know that.
Full-fledged bands.
Are they from Newburyport?
Not all of them. Some travel to see us.
Really?
Yeah. One was from New York.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Were they playing a show around here?
Just local, yeah. But local show, but he was still a New York artist.
Yeah.
But no, we've been kind of all around the state and some out of state, so it's good. Oh, thank you, Lily. Lily just set producing again today. So what's 2020? How did New Year's? Big bash? Craziness? Maya, yes. Caleb, no.
Oh, a party?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Sort of.
Details that we can tell, please go.
No details. I went to a party at the tennis club in Newburyport.
Oh, sounds wild.
Yeah, definitely wild. There was catered Chinese food, which is why I appeared there, because my
Chinese,
parents put on the event, and they told me there's food. So I showed up for the food, and then I kind of left and went to my friend's house and did other stuff.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. So it had nothing to do with tennis. It was just at the tennis club.
Well, no, they played tennis.
They did play tennis.
I don't play tennis.
Okay.
What?
Yeah.
Do your parents play tennis?
Yeah.
Did you just answer that? I don't know.
I was, I captained my tennis team.
What? I love tennis.
I do too. It's a great sport.
I'm really bad at it.
Maya's like, I didn't see any of this coming. So they actually they had Chinese food, played tennis, and celebrated the New Year?
Exactly.
Like till midnight?
Yeah.
Really?
They didn't play till midnight, 6:30 to 8:30, and then they played. They played 6:30 to 8:30, and then they just.
Chinese food and drinks?
Mhm.
do people like shower afterwards? You go home?
They didn't.
They did. These
they
people
just hung
didn't?
out in their clothes and.
I
their
was very
clothes.
sure about that answer. I know for sure they didn't. Well, that's interesting. You, Caleb, New Year's, what'd you do?
Just hung out. Played games like what older people do. You
Played
know?
games. Yeah. You're like the third person I've heard say that. Was it Nintendo?
What
No, not video games. I'm so bad at video games.
Yeah,
It's
'cause
ridiculous.
I don't do the video game thing.
No, it's like apples to apples, like games like that.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
You know, when you have to guess what the people are.
I played
Whatever.
game 2 on New Year's, but I
Yeah.
forget what it's called.
Yeah, I can't remember anything anymore. Once you hit 30, it's over.
It's don't tell people that. It's terrible advice.
I know, it's bad.
What are you? 31?
I'll be 31 this year,
31 this year.
unfortunately.
I'm about to be 33.
It's fun, man. The dirty 30.
Yeah, I'm gonna pass. I'm gonna pass that. I feel like that moment's come.
Yep.
Looking ahead now, you're past it. You can't.
I know.
I remember when you turned 30. Yeah, you were a little frightened.
Yeah, I still am. I feel like I'm like.
You let the whole year go by being worried
yeah,
about it.
I'm like, I feel like I'm 18. As my grandmother says, your body ages, but your soul doesn't.
Oh, that's sweet, Grandma.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's very nice.
So I'm young.
I like
at heart.
that.
I got kids forever as my, whatever it's called when you're in high school. So I'm a kid forever.
Yeah.
I'd say. You know, in the yearbook.
I hear you. That's good. I have a guy I work with is he's called me Young Drew since we've been there. You know, he's been there the whole 10 years I've been there. And I was saying, you know, I always feel young as long as he calls me Young Drew. He just retired like a month ago. I was like, no, you can't retire. I'm Young Drew. I was like 20 people younger than me. It's crazy. You don't remember what board game you played?
No, but it was you know the game Telephone?
No.
Do you?
Should I?
Yeah, like when you tell somebody something.
Exactly, and it goes around the room. You whisper,
Oh,
it,
yeah,
and then
yeah, I
you can't
remember that.
repeat it, and then at
Yes.
the end you see if it's the same word.
I got it.
So
Yep.
I don't know the name of it, but you get a word. Everyone gets a different word, and you draw it, and then you pass your book to the next person, and
Oh.
they from your drawing they have to guess what you drew, and then they guess. So they write the word, and then they flip the page, and you pass to the next person, and they read the word, and then they draw that, and then the next person they pass to the next person, and if they have to guess what you drew, and so it's hard because people aren't good at drawing.
Yeah,
it
that would be
ends
tougher
up
for me than-
changing shapes, and then it's supposed to be funny because it's usually doesn't always turn out. You start with one thing and it's totally different at the
Yeah.
end, and then you present them. Everyone presents them.
How long did you play that game for?
A half hour. I think
Oh,
we
that's
have
it.
a
Less
couple
than a
rounds.
half hour.
Well, it's fun, but then
Was
you're
that
like,
at the
"All
tennis
right."
club?
No, it's at my friend's house.
All right, there was a pre-game.
Yeah.
The Wild Tennis Club pre-game. Yeah, you know what one's the catchphrase? You ever done the catchphrase?
Yeah, we did
think
that. That's
so.
one of the games we
Oh,
played.
is that thing you pass around and then you have teams and you guess?
Yeah, and like there's different ways to do it. You can either like just accumulate points, just smacking the thing the whole
Yeah.
time to the next word, or you can like pass it around and then whoever gets stuck with it like
Yeah,
loses.
that's what we did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of not. See, I like to accumulate the points.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're just passing it around, it's always that moment at the very end where like, I was passing it or I was
It's so
throwing it, it was
scary.
yours, and
You just
or
throw
I
it at the
didn't catch
person.
it. Yeah, you know, it's never a clear. I like a clear winner.
At least you don't have any gym. As long as you don't have any like gym class heroes, you'll be all set with that
Gym
game.
class heroes, yeah.
You know what
Well, pretty much every room does, right?
It's true.
I mean,
at least one.
Show me a room. Anyways, 2020 goals, resolutions. Set anything yet?
I wanted to focus on self-care and self-love.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, but
Were you hurt this year?
no, not really. I want to. I mean, I do appreciate myself, but I want to know myself even better.
Nice. That's sweet.
That's
I bet you can't follow that. That's way too good of an answer.
No. Just,
I tried to laugh to make you feel more comfortable, but you can't follow that.
no, I'm just excited for our next adventure because I closed my business this past year.
That's true. That's a big thing for you.
Yeah, so now I've been around horses my whole life, so now I'm learning how to be a farrier.
Yep.
And I want to do blacksmithing because I want something. I like time honored things like that, a lot of history, and that's got history, and it's really
Yep.
it's a cool thing to create, and it's gonna be fun.
That's cool. What are the complications of closing down a I mean,
Yeah, it's not fun.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And what was a corporation? Or
Yeah.
it was LLC. So then you gotta close the LLC, and then I sold alcohol, so
Cider, yeah.
it's federal, state. You gotta close down all your tax stuff and all your licensing, and you gotta close out all your account stuff, and then
So you're ready for 2019 to be over.
yeah, it's taken me 3 months to close down the business, so it's been but
No, I didn't even realize that.
and insurances and you name it. There's so many things you got bonds, and
Oh God,
it's ridiculous.
I'm sorry.
It's all good, but hey, you know what?
Next
I learned
adventure.
a lot. That's the thing is you can
Nice.
never. if you my words of advice always, you always got to try. If you have a dream or a goal, you got to do it, because you're always gonna be a failure if you never tried, right? It's always gonna be a failure. You know, you're never gonna. You're always gonna not failure. You're always gonna regret it, you know. And as my buddy once said years ago, it was about referring to girls, like, you know, when I was and like
careful.
Yeah, and but what he said, I remember there was a girl, like, you know, far away, and he was like, I was like, I want to go talk to her, you know what I mean?
Oh, I see.
And he said. He said, you know what? It's a no unless you say something. And then she could say no. It was going to be a no anyways. You have 50% chance.
And now they're married.
Yeah, exactly.
Really?
No, well, I use that. No, I used not with her, but
Yeah.
not with that particular person, but with my wife. Yeah. So, so you always have to have the courage. So, like, starting this business was a huge, huge undertaking.
You did something starting a business that. I don't know what the percentage is, but
small percentage.
Few people do. Well, such few are able to launch it. Never mind, make it.
So, but I think that the biggest thing is that, as my business mentor said, he said, you closed down the business. Maybe you didn't accomplish 100% what you wanted to, but you learned so much, which you could never learn in college. And if you have a little bit of debt when you're done, education costs money. So he's like, and what you learned is more than you learned in a master's program.
Yep.
So I can apply it to the rest of my life. So that's good.
There you go.
Living the dream.
Now to the stay in school crowd. How is the?
You dropped out?
Well, no, I didn't drop.
He didn't drop out. I was alarmed that he was talking about how much he could learn without going to college when it's sitting next to you.
Yeah,
it's a very.
You should get an education.
Stay in school,
working
kids.
on it. Yeah.
So what year are you?
Sophomore.
That's a
Halfway
good year. Sophomore's a good year.
Yeah.
Because junior year is great. I remember this is exactly how I can remember it clear as day. Junior year, you get off and running. You're like, this is great. Things are perfect. I feel comfortable. Everything's good. I know the system, all that stuff. And then like junior year starts to get to an end. You're like, oh my goodness, I got a year and whatever left.
I'm gonna be a senior. Oh no.
That is real life. I can't do real life.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my mentality. We're both scaring you, aren't we?
Yeah. Just enjoy college while it lasts.
I'm trying.
That's good. What's the toughest part? Is it schoolwork? Balancing everything?
I'm actually pretty good at that.
The schoolwork part?
Yeah, it's not too bad. It's not too hard. My school's actually really easy. It's too easy sometimes.
I'm glad.
It's basically
You're probably making
school
it easy.
if you don't want to do school. And I didn't really like high school, the work.
Yeah.
And so Champlain College was good for not doing schoolwork. In class, we learned how to dance. My teacher took us to the lake to go swimming. He took us to a ballet. We pretended to be lions, and we were blindfolded, and we pretended to attack each other to test our heart rate.
Really?
Yeah.
I never did that one.
No,
Yeah.
that sounds kind of.
I kind of want to take that class.
That'd be sweet.
Those are
I was taking music classes, so I'd record bands, learn how to use mics and all that equipment, and a board like this, but it was a lot bigger. And what else? So I also take broadcast classes, so I go out and shoot video, and then I edit it, and then show it to my class.
So it's a lot of hands-on, right? Which
Yeah.
is nice.
Oh, yeah.
That's pressure. Do you
That's
get
the way to
nervous
learn
when you
right
gotta
there.
put it in front of the class?
No.
Well, that's good. Some people must.
I'm proud of my work, so.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's good. I guess if you're proud of it, anything
Yeah.
works. Because Burlington, any recommendations? I'm going to Burlington within the next month.
For what kind of food?
No, I'm trying to remember. I know a lot of the places there, but any like new restaurants that are great?
El Gato Cantina. If you like Mexican.
My wife does, or did. She was the vegan thing. Is all throwing me off now.
I'm sure there's a lot of vegan options.
Yeah,
out there.
there
Oh,
you think so.
There's a lot.
She's never been. That's why I was like, oh, you never been to Burlington?
Skinny Pancake is not vegan, but it's really good.
Yeah.
You know what's funny? She made vegan pancakes recently. Banana was the replacement.
Yeah, I like banana.
May have been the best pancakes ever.
Really?
Really?
Unbelievable.
Can you have maple syrup and be vegan?
Yeah.
Real maple syrup?
Yeah, syrup
Okay.
is good.
That was
You
probably
know what
a dumb
else you can
question.
have that is shocking? Mind blown.
Bacon.
Oreo cookies.
Oreo cookies?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
knew that one.
You knew that one?
Yeah.
There's no
It
dairy
doesn't
in
say
there at all.
much. That's not a good thing.
It's not a good thing. It means there's a lot of
You're eating
stuff in there. Yeah,
Ridiculous.
it is. All right,
That's crazy.
Final thoughts of the new year? You're going to be here Thursday anyways, but you could rethink this if you wanted, but
I take a while to think.
That's
yeah.
fine.
But
you got time. I'll just read.
on
It's my new book.
My dad gave me this
Oh, that's good.
notepad. I've decided I'm going to write more in 2020.
That's awesome.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, I'm too dependent on this. I do everything with this,
Yeah,
notes,
it's brutal.
everything. So I was like, I'm going to write more. So
I guess my final thought is to live in the moment, not always plan for the future. You should plan for the future, but live in the moment. Don't be like, oh, I need to get to this next step. Live now.
I like that one.
Have you heard of Be Here Now?
No.
I think it's a book. It's written by, I forget who it's written by, but it's a book about just being in the moment and living in the moment. If you look up that title, I'm sure you could find it.
Okay. Sounds
Yeah.
good. Check it out.
Good answers. Good. I like to hear the self-love earlier. That's a good one. Nice job, everybody. Very good. We'll lead to set. Thank you. First show of the new year. Welcome back. And thank you to Mayor Donna Holaday. She was great. Good way to start off the year. No, I'm not going to preview any guests for Thursday because I'm not sure. Today is Thursday. I am
Today is
so
Thursday,
confused.
You mean
Everybody's
for next
confused.
Thursday, right?
Next
It does
Tuesday.
feel
I
like
mean.
Tuesday,
Wait,
doesn't it?
oh.
Wow, that's
Or Monday.
weird.
Feels like a Monday.
Holiday
maybe.
story.
I know, because
Have a good
everyone
weekend,
else
everybody.
Yeah.
See you next Tuesday.